We're going to do this whole thing in Scottish accent.
I have a hard time not doing once I start it.
Welcome to the Dr. DC podcast.
My name is Producer. Welcome, residents of the Dr. DC podcast. My name is Producer Richard, and across from me is the Doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week, we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
That's right.
Hacha!
Like you, but not like you.
No.
You know who I'm talking about.
You're cool. Fuck you. This is like the earliest we've ever done this, I think.
Yeah. The other, like, one of the other episodes I think that we recorded super early was the porn one.
Oh, God.
Which was weird.
Oh, no.
Which was a weird one.
Yeah.
That was at like 9 a.m.
Nothing like talking about fucking incel cucks at 3 a.m.
And I feel like Docmas we start around 9 or 10, don't we? But
no, usually, well, it's closer to like 10 or 11, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, at any rate, yes.
Which is why I was
definitely the earliest we've ever recorded.
Because this morning I was going, God, we should really be doing Docmas this early. I'm like, I don't want to drink at 9 a.m. No, thank you.
Well, yeah, not wine. If we do, or just actually not even Caesars. I don't think I want an 8 a.m. Caesar.
Caesar's like a brunch on meal, I think.
Yeah, we're firmly in breakfast territory, so fuck off, brunch.
Yeah. Get out of here, brunch. Hey, Doc, we got a review.
Nice. Let's have it.
With 5 stars on a whiteboard in a music room. They prompt this review by saying, the podcast keeps talking about giving 5-star review in alternate form, so I added it to the whiteboard in my guitar studio. My students are confused about the assignments, but gaining appreciation for DC Comics may need to zoom in to read. Which I've read a little bit of it. Yeah, it's like... I think it's like something about like something scales is number one.
It's like what they're doing today, and like
number 2 is
practice scales,
recital music. Yeah, and then number 3 is rate the podcast, the Dr. DZ podcast on iTunes or whatever you use, and then there's a very long review which I'm not blowing up to read right now.
Yeah,
but it's
like
amazing.
It's a very specifically worded review that they're supposed to each put into their. Yeah. Which is very funny to me.
And also, you should be failing the students because we've got none of those.
Yeah, that's true. Just to, like a little follow-up pup. Let's close the circle on this one. None of your students have done it.
No, but I do like it's like when you're in college and the teacher like puts at the end of the exam, like if you've read the whole exam.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do the exam.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, just don't do the exam.
Yeah.
That's a dick fucking move.
Oh, yeah, I've had some really shitty, like, the thing is about, like...
That's a stupid move, though, because it's one thing to put a bonus question and be like, if, maybe trick wording or something, but who the fuck reads the whole exam before they start? That's a stupid fucking...
Friend, I went to a trade school. These teachers have full-time jobs that are not teaching. They did not care.
Oh, What? That's a fucking bastard move.
Yeah, because especially the old teachers love to like prove something, and so I remember this one guy specifically was saying he was just like he's like you should be reading everything before you jump into it.
Why though?
Well, for code it makes sense. Like you should be looking at the entire problem before you try to fix something because then you can create multiple issues.
That's a stupid way to teach that lesson.
No, it's an asshole way to teach that lesson.
Because that's fine for code, but that's not how tests work.
Unfortunately, that's
wow. Well, at any rate, I mean, you should then. Yeah, I think Richard's right. You should fail all your students.
Yeah, fuck those people.
At the recital, I don't know when it is, but you should tell all of their parents that they've disappointed you.
Be like, it was beautiful. That was an amazing performance. You've failed. And they go, what?
Or you add lyrics. I don't know if this is classical guitar or not, but like if you're playing like...
I don't know what guitar classes would have like singing in it.
But if it's yeah, exactly. But you can add lyrics maybe to a piece of classical music. Add those lyrics that you wrote, which are a 5-star review. Put that to like, I don't know, fucking Ode to Joy or something.
Have you ever seen the Dan Harmon's history TV show that he had?
No.
from Community and whatnot. He had a TV show where the it was basically like one of those like bumper shows where it's like not even a full 30 minutes. Like, it's like 5 minutes or something like that. Right. But the idea was that they would bring, they developed him and the nerdy guy from his podcast.
Okay.
Who does the D&D stuff. Yep. He and that guy develops a technology where he can bring people from the past to the future, but only for like a small period of time. And so they, so every episode they bring a new person from the past. And, one of the times they were, I think, who does is it Beethoven? That's like the da-na-na-na.
Yeah.
That's
so Beethoven's film.
Yeah. So they bring Beethoven forward and it's Jack Black playing Beethoven. And
I can already see where it's going.
And it's he's just like, he's like, they're like, do you want to like hear some of your music? He's like, you probably have never heard it. He's because they give him like a hearing thing so he can start hearing.
Right.
And they're like, you probably have never heard your music. And he starts playing and he goes, oh, this is great. But where are the lyrics? And he's just like, what do you mean where are the lyrics? He's like, well, there's lyrics to all my songs. And he's like, here, I'll sing this one. And he starts playing and he goes, poop in my butt. Poop in my pee. Poop in the butt. Poop in the sky. Poop in the sea. Poop everywhere that you never thought that poop could be. Poop in the butt.
I can totally picture that.
It's amazing. It's a really, and then they like take him to like a German like bar and like it's probably the best episode of that. I can't remember. If you look up Dan Harmon history, it'll show up.
I'll find it, I'm sure.
It's one of my favorite things ever. Well, we should jump into the news.
Yeah, let's do it.
We got a couple pieces from Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover for the Arrowverse, and I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about a couple of them. Obviously, the first one, Tom Ellis reportedly spotted on the set for Crisis on Infinite Earths as Lucifer.
Yeah, apparently the Lucifer show is also like not crossing over in that like there won't be a Lucifer episode component to it, but that character is I think showing up on Crisis on Infinite Earths. So that's one of the Infinite Earths.
It's insane how
at this point, some of these things must just be like a single shot. Just, you know what I mean? Like we're just panning across different Earths or different like. There's no way that some of these people have like even lines, but it must just be like we shot like a little thing and like here he goes, or he uses a power or something. Just a quick shot for like a climactic sort of battle. At this point, that's what it must be, right? There's just too many people in there.
Do you mean like Michael Keaton?
I think that might be blowing it out of proportion.
It is. I know what it is now. I've done some research and found it out.
It's just the newspaper.
It's just the newspaper.
Right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
So yeah, it's literally a newspaper that says the Gotham City Gazette, and it says Wayne Tech CEO Bruce Wayne to marry socialite Selena Kyle.
Yeah, and it's a shot, but the image in the paper is Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne.
Which is...
And then everyone was like, they got Michael Keaton. Like, forgetting that like weeks earlier, Michael Rosenbaum had made a comment about how he said he turned down the crossover because they gave him no info and they were paying him no money.
Yeah, so but they're going to get Michael Keaton.
They got Keaton, yeah.
Rosenbaum actually is doing well on his own too right now. It's not like he needs this. And it's like...
Don't get me wrong. If Keaton showed up, I would probably... jizz myself.
There's literally no...
It's too much.
There's no universe where that happens. Another fun piece of news. Speaking of references in media, Shazam director has the perfect response to if Booster Gold is in the Shazam movie.
Oh yeah, someone asked.
So funny.
Someone asked if the little blonde kid that's playing with like the Superman and Batman toys is a young Booster Gold.
Yeah, and his response was, "You know what? I'm in a good mood today. Sure, that's canon."
Yeah. You just. You just said it.
Which is the best.
It's such like a weird... I'm just not even sure why that question even came up, though. Booster Gold's from like 400 years in the future.
I have no idea, but I love that
But it
answer.
is funny. That David Sandberg, that director, is so good at the trolling and just like playing... I saw someone that said like... I saw some review of the movie, and I can't tell if the review was a joke or if someone was legitimately confused, and it just said... the original with Shaq was better.
Oh, like Kazam.
Yeah, and then David Sandberg replied like, "Even I can admit that we weren't very faithful to the source material," or something like that.
Oh my god. That's
he's pretty,
really funny.
He's pretty good online.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Poison Ivy got a new look.
Is this in the Ivy and Harley series that's happening right now?
This is from... so Poison Ivy's gone through a lot since the beginning of Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah.
But yes, this is involving the pages of Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of Heroes in Crisis, Ivy was sort of reborn through the green, and so her body looked a little more Swamp Thing-esque. Not that it was, like, grotesque, but it was just made of plants and kind of looked like musculature. Like she kind of
looks like She-Hulk a bit.
I guess, yeah. It looked like you had taken the skin off, right? And you were just seeing like the muscles and sinews and stuff, but they were all plants. But I think she seems to be looking more normal again.
Wow, for a woman covered in plant life, yeah, who's green.
Normal.
Yeah. What I love is that at least the reference photo I'm looking at right now, it says Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy halt and catch fire. Which I'm like, that was just a really good show on HBO. What?
I don't know. I don't think that's the name of the book. The book, I think, is just...
It says in Halt and Catch Fire.
Maybe, okay, maybe that's just like the name of that issue or something.
Yeah, weird.
The story, yeah.
That they would use that.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Yeah, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy take on computers in the 80s.
I mean, if you read enough comics, like, just individual issues will have...
references and stuff?
We'll have, like, titles that might not be the name of the arc.
Yeah.
So there's so many issues out there that eventually a bunch of writers will reference a bunch of things that are unrelated. Like
I don't fucking know.
You can find a reference to probably almost anything.
Yeah.
Between DC and Marvel and all.
Oh, yeah. Last piece of news. We got new set photos from the production of The Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so excited about this movie more than I ever was. This reminds me of the set photos that we were getting from Guardians of the Galaxy when it first came out.
Yeah, I mean, some people are saying like, "Oh, look, the costumes look shitty," but like forgetting that, like, who are they? Like, these are like the lowest of the low grade kind of characters that are in this.
What excites me is that it reminds me a lot of what he did with Guardians, which is just like, it's a lot of really bright colors.
Yep. Yeah.
And that was the thing. That was what made, like, the color grading that he does, especially when you let him loose. Like, that's kind of my issue. That's really my only gripe with the first Guardians, is that the color grading is kind of shitty because they're forcing him to fit within the mold of the Marvel movies.
Right.
And so he made everything
that second movie is really color saturated.
Because they just let him actually do his own color grading, and it looks way, way better.
From these pictures, though, gotta say, loving Boomerang's new look.
I'll say that I like his look.
Listen.
Plenty.
Boomerang better make it to the end of that movie.
It'd be really funny if he just made it to the end and then
just dies in the post-credits scene.
Yeah. It's like,
Waller falls asleep on the keypad, blows him up.
That would be fantastic.
So we see him, we see Flula Borg in there.
God. Fucking swole.
We saw Pete Davidson. I think he's playing Blackguard.
Yes.
We saw Nathan Fillion, and the rumor is that he is playing Arm Fall Off Boy.
Based on the insignia on his chest, it would make sense.
It would, and the fact that his
arms are exposed,
has exposed arms. If Nathan Fillion is Arm Fall Off Boy, I'm going to pre-order my ticket. If that gets confirmed, I'm just ordering my ticket.
The idea that he's just like pulling his arm off and like hitting people with it.
I think that's a hilarious idea.
I hope that he like takes it off and then high fives somebody who's tall with the other arm. Like these are
be funny.
That's all I want. Like, and I feel like if anybody's going to do that, it's going to be James Gunn.
The one character is Mongol, looks like a female Mongol, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some cool stuff in there. We have not seen all of them though. We haven't seen Polka Dot Man. We haven't seen Ratcatcher. We haven't seen Idris as whatever character he's playing
Yeah.
But yeah, we're starting to get images, basically.
Yeah, we haven't seen Idris as not Deadshot.
I think it's entirely possible to, because so many people are in this, it's entirely possible that this movie starts with a roster of the Suicide Squad and a bunch of them die, and then we get a secondary roster of Suicide Squad.
Oh.
They're like, well, let's do this mission over again.
Or
get people out of the prison.
Or it's like, it's a precursor. Like, they show that, like, oh, this isn't the first time she's done this.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we may see multiple rosters because there's so many.
Well, and there was a Suicide Squad prior to the current run, like in the comics, right? Like, it's not the first. Like, they've had variations.
Well, yeah. I mean, so the Task Force X, like the using villains for government purposes, has been going on since the 80s. There's constant turnover.
Yeah.
But then there was a version of the Suicide Squad that had nothing to do with villains. That was just the name of this, like, army regiment.
Oh, that's right.
That went on, like, suicide missions.
Well, that'd be a good way to, like, you could show it, like, they initially started as, like, army guys, and then they went into, like, villains, and then they went...
I mean, it could be, or it could just simply be that since the events of the first one, they just keep sending villains out, and a bunch of them die, and then you have to replace them.
I mean, it feels like...
funny, too.
Like, the only way that you could get Nathan Fillion in a movie like that as a lower grade character is if you were going to kill him.
It's something hilarious. Yeah.
It feels, and to then put him as Arm Fall Off Boy feels like you're really putting the, like, red suit on him, like the red shirt.
It'd be funny if he got killed, like his head got exploded, and then when his body fell, his arms came off, and then someone else used his arm.
That would be really funny. And I feel like that's the type of thing.
James Gunn, if it's not too late.
It feels like a thing that James Gunn would totally do.
Yeah.
Well, it's great because they basically, like, filmed most of the movie now. So even if he listens to this podcast, I don't think he's gonna, like.
I mean, there's always pickups and reshoots.
That's true.
Yeah.
I just don't want him. Don't lost it because, like, when the Lost Raiders realized that everybody had figured out what happened, they then changed what the actual show was about.
Well, we're going to be talking about that sort of reflex a lot in this episode.
Well, yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Wow. So this week's theme is that they were in purgatory the whole time.
Yes. Yeah. This week's theme was like, oh fuck, I forgot that there was a smoke monster.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's get into this week's theme.
Yeah. We're talking about everything connected to the possible future of Armageddon 2001, which was a series that came out in 1991 that imagined a much further future, further than 2001. Where
Try to picture it if you can. Ben Affleck, Bruce Willis.
Oh my God.
Liv Tyler.
I don't want to close my eyes.
I'm leaving on a jet plane.
I don't
know when I'll be back again.
Oh, Jesus.
To be fair, that came out in 98, but it's
yeah. So in 1991, this is about a much further future where this being called Monarch basically rules the world. He's a tyrant. But and this guy named Matthew Ryder, who is a temporal physics expert, is sort of recruited by Monarch to test this time travel device, but Matthew Ryder decides, like, no, I can use this to go back in time and stop him from existing, because what do we know about Monarch? Not very much, other than at one point he was one of Earth's heroes until he betrayed them and took over. So it's setting up like a mystery, right? That this guy's going to go back in time to stop Monarch from existing, but he doesn't know. But he doesn't know which hero becomes Monarch.
Oh,
and this power shift where he becomes Monarch and sort of betrays the heroes is meant to take place in 2001. So we have 1991, which is present day DC universe at the time.
Yeah.
2001, which is when Monarch is supposed to rise to power, and then further in the future, which is where the events of this sort of kick off. I'll give just like a bit of like a background on it. So Matthew Ryder, in being sort of disintegrated, the time travel process is like they disintegrate you, turn you into tachyons, and then tachyons move backward through time, and then you're reconstituted in the past.
Oh.
But something happens to him, and he basically becomes this being that can manipulate the time stream and travel the time stream, and he becomes Waverider.
Oh.
Which is the reference in Legends of Tomorrow is that their ship is called the Waverider, but in DC, Waverider is a guy.
and he has a silver surfboard, and
he has a kind of Silver Surfer look to him if you look him up, but he's sort of yellow and golden, and he's got sort of like energy hair.
Sorry, energy hair?
Yeah, you'll see.
I mean, it looks like flames, but yeah.
But I think it's meant to be like temporal energy because it's not really fire at all.
100% he looks like Silver Surfer though.
Yeah, so that's Waverider. But he ends up in the past, and basically this series was like, it was 2 issues that bookended the series. Armageddon 2001 number 1 and number 2. And then in between, and this was over the course of months, every annual issue of the series that were currently happening in DC basically tied in, and it was Waverider encountering these heroes and looking into their possible futures to determine whether or not they became Monarch. So basically the whole series was like a bunch of like what if in the future stories of different characters. And then in number 2, you discover who Monarch is. The big we have some questions about it, but I'll just say it right off the top.
Yeah.
This series intended for Captain Atom to be Monarch.
Oh, really?
He was the one that would become Monarch. But right before that issue came out, it was leaked or sort of deduced or figured out, and people knew.
They lost it, yeah.
So they last minute changed it from Captain Atom to be Hawk, like Hank Hall.
What?
And people did not respond well to being like basically strung along and then like fucked over in a story. And we'll talk about it more in the questions because I know we got a question about it, but changing it to Hawk was actually
I think it's the first question, so yeah.
It was actually like the one decision that made the least sense. You could have picked anyone, and they picked the worst one, basically.
Well, let's get into it because that's literally the first question.
Let's do it. Yeah,
we're going over to Facebook.
Go to the face in the book. Go to the Facebook.
First question comes from the most interesting resident.
Stephen Marion Almagro.
Stephen Marion Almagro. Whew. Yeah, obviously. Who else would it be? I don't understand. Yeah. I don't know why it's so challenging. Said the most interesting resident, not one of the residents that are the most interesting.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I don't know who else. I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm so sorry.
Get it together, Alfred.
Spoiler alert, Monarch was Alfred.
Oh my God. See, that would have made sense.
We just blew this shit wide open.
Fuck yeah.
Man, let's go back to 1991 and save DC editorial.
Yeah, that's it. And also get them to buy Marvel when they should have.
Yeah. When Marvel is tanking, buy Marvel.
Yeah, buy Marvel. Yeah. Do that. But then sell it to Disney because, I mean, it's a lot of money. Yeah. Steven asks, initially, it was Captain Atom who was supposed to become Monarch, but was changed last minute to Hawk instead. Do you think it would have been better if they had pushed through with the original plan? Also, which among the heroes' futures that Waverider saw did you like and dislike the most?
Right. So the first part of this question is...
do you think they should have just stayed with Captain Atom?
And yeah, of course they should have.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're crafting a story, I mean, something like this is tricky because you sort of have an editor kind of generally guiding, but the actual event was only 2 issues. It was all of the regular series writers that were doing these annuals and just sort of like tying in. So the editor would say like, we know who it's going to be.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't do something to jeopardize that. And otherwise they were kind of writing their own things. So it's tricky in general in an event structured that way to keep the pieces in the right sort of alignment, basically. But I mean, especially in the 90s, you know, like fine, people figured it out or it got leaked. Like what? I mean, that shit happens now just because people are good at reading.
All right,
like
let me paint you a picture.
Just let it finish the way it's supposed to. It would be more satisfying for people to be like, it was right, or I was right. I deduced it. Great.
I hear what you're saying, but let me paint you a picture.
Sure.
So, the year is 1997.
Okay.
Billy Zane, Kate Winslet,
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio,
Right.
The Titanic.
Yeah. I've never seen it, so don't tell me what happens.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to ruin something for you.
They make it to New York, right?
Imagine if you came into that
Or
movie.
to London or wherever the fuck.
Imagine if you came into that movie and already knew. I'm going to blow your mind for a second.
Okay.
The Titanic sinks.
Oh, fuck.
Right?
Oh,
That movie
man.
would have been ruined.
But Leo at least makes it, right?
So there's a piece of the ship.
Right. Is it like a door or something?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Yeah, okay. Is there enough room on it for more than one person?
Surprisingly, you would think that a door would be. This is a special door that though is perfectly floating and and one person is definitely only taking up less than half of the space on it. For some reason, actually, just the way that it was designed, it couldn't take the weight of two people.
What?
It would have sunk.
Wait, so which one? Who doesn't make it?
Well, I got to leave something for the spoiler.
Oh, Jesus.
See, think about how terrible that would have been if you'd known.
I mean, yes, this is a good way to. I mean, maybe not the exact way to illustrate it because that's just a piece of history, but it's true. Like, listen, would it be disappointing to have your mystery story spoiled? Yes, of course. Is it disappointing as a reader to have it spoiled before, like, the actual comic reveal? Yes, of course.
If you're leading up to a reveal, sure, that makes sense.
But what is more disappointing? Having it spoiled or being like, well, do you know what? I'm going to make something that you could never have guessed because it wasn't leading up to this.
And is not a good idea.
Just to say, fuck you, like, you spoiled it. That is so much worse. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure that all great art comes from spite.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, exactly, right? It's such a spite move. Like, I kind of get why they did it, but it's just a bad decision. Just live with it. Be like, well,
painting the Sistine Chapel. Let me show you this fucking lady. I'll tell you. All great art comes from spite.
Yes. Yeah. If there's one lesson you could take away from this episode.
Looking at you, Dr. Marvel podcast.
Yeah. I mean, of course I
Surprise, we've been a Marvel podcast this whole time.
I much would rather them just stay the course. For example, you know, we're in the middle of Event Leviathan right now. We're all trying to guess who Leviathan is. It's
Hawk.
Fuck me. If it's Hank Hall, do you know what? If it was Hank Hall, that would be the ultimate troll.
It would be amazing.
That'd be the ultimate troll.
That's the one time spite would actually be worth it because then it's hilarious.
Yeah, that would actually be very, very funny. But you know what I mean? If that got spoiled, I just want them to just put it out the way it was meant to come out. Don't change it.
Yeah.
Let me at least enjoy the craft, like what you set up, because I can maybe at least appreciate like where you planted the seeds earlier, and like the story still remains good. It's just like the reveal's disappointing. That's it. You know, that's the only downside then at that point. So yes, of course, I wish they had just stuck with Captain Atom. Now,
Monarch was actually dead the whole time.
the Monarch reveal is every other reveal from pop culture.
Monarch's actually your father.
That's impossible.
No.
The second half of this question is
Monarch's actually been aging in reverse.
That wasn't a reveal. That was the premise of the movie.
I know, they're just throwing shit in there now.
You didn't get 3/4 of the way into Benjamin Button and then go, what?
He's aging. Is it just me or is he getting younger?
I sort of zoned out, but like, did he look that good earlier?
Are they Is this like they're filming it backwards? Is this a memento?
The one person that didn't get Benjamin Button's premise.
It's weird that they filmed that
reveal
backwards.
At the end was fucking crazy.
They must have taken a long time to make that movie, and that lady's a real old at the end.
Yeah, they did like the Richard Linklater. They filmed it over like 40 years.
It's weird they found so many actors that look like Brad Pitt. In succession age, too. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, it was a feat of casting. The second half of this question. Waverider goes to the past, and basically when he makes contact, like physical contact with a hero, he can see
like their future,
or a possible future, or whatever of them. So
it would be really funny if he touched like Captain Atom, and it was like it's a possible future, but somebody spoiled it, and it looks
I mean, you're joking,
yeah,
but in Armageddon 2001 number 2, this final bookend issue, he does touch Captain Atom.
Oh my god!
He sees a future where he starts going nuts in that, and then Captain Atom inexplicably stops himself short, and then Waverider says, "I think even by being here, I've changed all your futures. Everything I've seen might not happen."
Oh my god!
I mean, from a time travel perspective, he's right.
Yeah,
but like, what a shin kick!
Yeah.
Like. Just like, oh, everything you've been reading for 5 months? Never mind. I fucked it up.
and then he looked directly at the pages, and it was just like, huh. Funny how that
Yes,
happened.
it could be anyone. So what are some of the futures that I liked or disliked? There's kind of like an interesting one where it's partially the plot of Superman 4 and also partially the plot of The Dark Knight Returns. Basically, Superman tries to get rid of all the nuclear weapons, and then the government doesn't want that to happen, because of course they would.
Yeah.
And they send Batman to take out Superman.
I love that Batman suddenly works for the government.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, right? But Batman kills Superman in that one, I think.
Jesus Christ.
It's got a lot of shades of Dark Knight Returns, but sort of flipped. So instead of Superman being sent to stop him, it's the other way around.
Yeah, and then Batman creates all of these robotic versions of himself, and then he wants to put one in every country around the world.
I mean, he would.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's like, that's it, Superman. We're having a civil war of superheroes.
the ultimate reveal of this event is that it set up every Marvel event.
Yeah. That's right.
Actually,
Then the whole...
what did I just read that? Oh, shit. I just read something that ripped off the first, like, the thing with the symbiote from
really?
Secret War.
Really?
Fuck, was it this? No. Oh. I might not remember. Fuck, was it this? At any rate, there's there's a possible future where oh no, sorry, it's the most recent issue of Doom Patrol.
Oh, okay.
There's a symbiote that attaches itself to Flex Mentallo, and he gets like black trunks.
Well, then that's clearly like...
It's very yeah, that's what it was.
That's funny.
I knew I read it recently. At any rate, so there's that one for Superman. There's like a Flash one where Wally West is like in witness protection for some reason, but then he has a son and he has to save him from the rogues. It's fine.
Yeah.
For the most part, I actually don't think these are that good in general.
No.
Because they're all just kind of like for nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was reading this at the time trying to deduce who Monarch was, I would find them less.
So does he kill Hawk at the end? Like
just in the story?
Yeah.
So in the main story, Monarch shows up in that number 2 issue. It's tied to the Captain Atom future. Basically, in Captain Atom's future, his family is murdered. The government does nothing about it. The police do nothing about it. And he basically goes nuts and uses his nuclear powers. But because he's doing that in a possible future, and Waverider is involved, and he has quantum powers, he basically opens the time stream and allows Monarch to come to the past.
Yeah.
And then Monarch in the past fights the Justice League a bit. He's like, they're too powerful. I better retreat. And then he kidnaps Dove, kidnaps Hawk, makes Hawk watch as he kills Dove. Hawk goes nuts,
Jesus.
Kills Monarch, realizes it's him, and then becomes Monarch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which again, keep in mind, Monarch is supposed to rise to power in 2001. All of this happens in 1991, which just proves the point of Waverider that him showing up basically completely nullified any of the futures they saw or came from.
I mean, this is just blowing my mind. DC never does a thing where they have somebody come back from time and make something happen earlier than it's supposed to. Flash.
Well, the thing that I will say, the one of those annuals, the one future that I kind of liked, and this is the reason that this reveal is really a piss off, is the Hawk and Dove annual. Because basically something about Dove's powers interact with Waveriders, and he sees like all of their possible futures, not just one or two.
Oh.
He sees every one of them. And he says himself, in every one of them, they fight him and don't become him. It's the only one that explicitly says these characters do not become Monarch.
Does Monarch...
He doesn't get to touch Captain Atom until the final issue, so you're like, oh, it must be him. We haven't seen his future. And he says specifically, Hawk and Dove do not become Monarch.
Does Dove look at Waverider at one point and go, is this the one?
It's just fucking stupid. They end up doing more interesting things with Hawk, like after he becomes Monarch, after the events of this. Then he kills Waverider and gets his temporal energies and becomes extant. Then he's a big villain.
Extant going to give it to you.
Extant going to give it to you in 0 Hour, which is an actual kind of interesting story. But yeah, this is a hot mess.
Jesus. All right, let's on the tail of your answer to that. Let's go. Let's leave Facebook and go to Twitter.
Twitter.
And our first question comes from Talking Superman.
Yeah,
which I think I think you said a lot of shit in that last answer. Yeah. So I want to bring it to this question, which is from Talking Superman. Should I read this? I
mean, maybe just in the same way that there are.
Do you like a bad time?
Well, no, I mean, it's not like the worst. The thing that sucks about it is how they fucked over the people that figured it out or whatever.
But leading up to that?
It's fine. Yeah. It was never going to be great. Let's put it that way. This was never going to be one of those ones where we would look back like 30 years from now and be like, wow, Armageddon 2001 was comics.
Oh, they sure did disable Barbara Gordon in that.
Well, exactly. I would read the bookends.
Yeah.
It's only 2 issues. So you at least get the origin of Waverider. You get some stuff with you get the big beats. What happened? Who is Monarch? Mm-hmm. But do you have to read every one of those annuals? No, not really. For Talking Superman, who likes Superman, just read, the Action Comics one and the Superman one and the Adventures of Superman one. You'll see them. You might not like them, but you'll at least follow, like, this is what they were doing with Superman at the time. These were the what-if futures they gave him. But you don't have to read them all. If I was going to make just the essential reading list for the Armageddon ones, I actually think it's the Armageddon bookends, the Superman annuals, those 3 I mentioned, the Hawk and Dove annual, and that's it.
Really?
Yeah. The rest of them are fine, but even last week when we were talking Future's End, we were talking about that new Guardians tie-in with Kyle Rayner. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's fine, but like, it's ultimately pointless.
Yeah.
And especially because of that thing of Waverider being like, oops, I've changed your possible futures. It's like, there's really no point to reading.
Did I do that?
There's no point to reading any of them unless you just care about the character. You just want to see what they were writing for them. Yeah. And I think that's the only reason to do it.
It's weird that after that he then said, does anybody have any cheese?
Urkel was Monarch?
The whole time.
He turned the dial too far past Stefan Urkel.
And went to Monarch. Yeah.
Monarch Urkel.
Monarchel.
Monarchel.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no. The whole time. Next question comes from our favorite spacey, sexy texter.
Ooh. Cosmic DM. That's close.
It was the Cosmic Mandarin, who asks, how do you feel about dystopian futures being solved through time travel, like this and Future's End, as a plot device? Also, if you had to use the era of the Legion of Superheroes to blow up an asteroid like in Armageddon 1998, what would your team be?
Right. Okay, first question first. So when you have an event that is centered in time travel, it narratively makes sense to solve it in time travel. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Like, the premise of Future's End, where it's like, go back in time and you didn't go back far enough. I don't have a problem with, at the end, they get him back the extra distance, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. That doesn't bother me because it's the the setup of the whole event is like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, like, technically in Armageddon, Waverider is right. You know, like, what he says about coming to the past changes people's futures is not wrong. But they don't use that well. You know, what it should be is that he goes to the past and starts this investigation and then realizes partway through that he's changing people's futures. And he then earlier recognizes, no, I need to do, like, actual detective work because I can't be given the answers via my time powers because I'm affecting the future.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, that he thinks he can do it and then he can't, and then maybe he has to team up with some, you know, detective character. Like, there's a way to do that isn't shitty, but to just use it at the end to be like, oh, we know that it was leaked that Captain Adam was going to be Monarch. Not anymore. Rug pull. That's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
So in general, do I have a problem with time travel, quote unquote, fixing things? No, but it's the lazier option. The point of Future's End, though, like, the reason it doesn't bother me in Future's End is that Future's End was never going to be the future. And it was basically just like, that's fine. Like, the whole point of the event was, like, to watch something, basically an Elseworld kind of thing, almost. So it's like, that's fine. I'll go along with that. And then you just stop that future. And in the end of Future's End, he actually doesn't 100% stop that future because Brother Eye is still in control in the era of Neo Gotham. So, you know, that was the fun twist ending there. For Armageddon, though, it was more about, like, maybe something is going to happen to a hero to drive them to the brink. The interesting thing to do would be to stop them. And then that future wouldn't take place anymore. That, like, you know, the heroes come together, they show compassion, they help their friend out of this sort of turning point crisis that might, you know, where they might make a decision they'd regret.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting, compassionate, narratively valuable way to deal with that instead of just like, it's Hawk. Look.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of my feeling about that. Second half of this question is kind of a fun one. So, you're making an Armageddon Bruce Willis team.
Yeah.
But you have to do it out of the Legion of Superheroes. Yeah. Who's on your team and why?
Well, I think that, like, Bear, or Michael Clark Duncan, needs to be Block.
Okay.
It seems like a pretty easy A to B.
Sure.
I think Ben Affleck should be Superboy.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just casting it, I think that's right. I think he's Superboy, yeah.
Bruce Willis, Brainiac 5.
I actually think Brainiac 5 should be Jason Isaacs' character, like the guy that works for NASA that's like, we built the drill, and that Bruce Willis is like, you don't know shit about drilling.
Yeah, okay. No, you're right. Bruce Willis could be Mon-El.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Yep, yeah. And let's say Liv Tyler could be Saturn Girl.
Right, yeah. I mean, you could do a thing with her, like, telekinetic powers, or telepathic powers, rather, that, like, she knows when... I mean, this isn't exact casting, because Mon-El would not be her dad, but, like, she would know that Mon-El was sacrificing himself and sending Superboy back, and... ripping the patch up and be like, give this to Billy Bob Thornton.
No, wait, you know what? Steve Buscemi would be like Bouncing Boy.
Okay. No, Bouncing Boy should be... Who's the other big guy in Armageddon? The white guy?
Max. Ken Hudson Campbell.
Yeah. Should be him.
What about Owen Wilson?
Oh, hang on. Oh, wow.
Largand.
Oh, that's tough. See,
Largand? No.
That's Mono.
Oh, that's right. Yes, sorry. Kid Quantum?
I was going to just basically just cheat the whole system and say that we just send Matter Eater.
No, Matter Eater Lad. That's who Owen Wilson is.
Eats the asteroid.
That's who Owen Wilson is. He's totally Matter Eater
Lad.
Yeah.
I think I might have also said that Michael Clark Duncan could be like Colossal Boy or something.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like the block. I mean, block. It's just literally A to B there.
I think Steve Buscemi could be Cosmic Boy because he's teetering on the verge of sanity, and as we learned, Cosmic Boy later became Time Trapper, their greatest villain, and stuff like that. So, you could throw him in there and he's
Billy Bob Thornton could be Thom Kalor.
Oh, like Starboy?
Yeah,
Tom Kalor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that there's a good 1-to-1 casting for this, but if I had to make a team based on their skill sets to destroy that thing, I'd send Cosmic Boy because hopefully the asteroid has metal in it that he can manipulate with his magnetism powers.
Yeah.
I'd send Matter Eater Lad because you need to give him enough of a head start. He's still limited by what can fit into his mouth, but send him in there. Probably Ultra Boy or Super Boy or Mon-El. If you got to drill into the center of this thing, send your very powerful characters to do that. I think those are maybe like the big ones I'd use.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next question from our resident religious representative, Chris Chan.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Who asks, the 2001 tag can be a loaded term. Does this event do it justice? And why not just call it the event Armageddon? I'd have to agree with them. I think why not call it like 2000? What does it do 2001? Unless you're trying to do a Space Odyssey thing. And then it's like, if you're doing a Space Odyssey thing, what does this have to do with aliens?
Right. Yeah, 2001 maybe just invokes the idea of future because of things like Space Odyssey.
But that wasn't really future as much as it was just alien contact.
I guess. I mean, you'd really have to talk to someone at editorial. I don't know why they picked that, not 2000 or... Yeah, that's a fair point.
Did you remember the Conan's, the year 2000 thing they used to do?
No.
Conan, they used to have they used to pretend like in the year 2000, and they would talk about all this future stuff, but it was obviously they just started doing it after the year 2000.
Oh, really?
They were and they would have the little trumpet player guy, cause they would be the year 2000, and then they have the little trumpet player guy would be the year 2000. And then it would be Conan with Snoop Dogg or something, and it's in the year 2000, hot dogs will be banned because of blah blah blah. It's a very funny bit.
Do you know what's funny is as I was reading this question, I read it as it's a loaded term, and I was like, you can't invoke 9/11. This was 1991. 9/1. We just blew this wide open. Armageddon 2001 predicted 9/11. You heard it here.
You can't melt the steel Monarch beam. Yeah. with hawk fuel? I don't know. Captain Atom was actually never supposed to be hit first.
Yeah, there were people in Metropolis cheering. I saw. Jesus Christ.
The third Monarch was actually hit. distasteful. At least we're not doing this like
two monarchs into the Watchtower and one into the Hall of Justice.
Hey, at least we're not doing this on 9/11 like we did the last thing.
Yeah, that was unfortunate timing.
It was not good. Monarch is not.
Yeah, why didn't they just call it Armageddon? It could sometimes that stuff maybe is tied to rights or things like that. I don't know if the term Armageddon was used for something else in recent memory or something.
There was a movie coming up, and they
were like, they're going to make this in like 97. We don't want to step on toes. Yeah, you're right. They could have picked literally any year. I think it's 2001, just because it was literally 10 years after 1991 when this was happening. So it was like, we got 10 years before this happens. I think that's it. I don't know that there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
Armageddon's a funny way to put it, though, too, because it's not what happens at that time. I mean, Monarch wipes out the heroes, but then just makes a fascist police state. Like, it's not like a war breaks out and humanity's destroyed. It's just he beats the heroes and then makes a police state. So Armageddon's also a odd word to invoke that way, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I don't know if I would call it a loaded term. I don't know if anyone was reading this and being like, there's not even a monolith. Like,
I mean, you're wrong.
When you say 2001, I expect a fucking monolith.
Or at least some monkeys. All right. Let's leave Twitter and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
First question comes from Robbie's just this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we have to keep bringing it up.
Robbie just wants to get groceries and go to the gym like every other guy.
Yeah, listen, Robbie's just going to 10 years from now become a supervillain and wipe out the heroes.
Robbie doesn't know that. Robbie's just this guy.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even by saying this, it's not Robbie anymore. Spoiler alert, it's Hank.
It was Chris Chan the whole time.
Chris Chan's just this guy.
Oh my God.
That's the reveal from our Armageddon episode. We had accidentally spoiled that it was going to be Robbie, so we had to change it.
Yeah. Well, Robbie asks, Chris asks, so if Hawk were to die, does Monarch disappear back to the future style?
Well, I suppose that depends on...
Why don't you tell us, Chris?
So suppose it depends. I mean, the whole point of that second issue is Waverider talking about possible futures. So I think even if you kill Hawk, the Monarch that had shown up in the past wouldn't disappear, because there is... Hang on, I'm backing myself into a weird corner here.
Uh-oh.
I suppose...
Nobody puts Doctor in the corner.
If you killed Hawk, you might wipe out all of the possible futures where Monarch exists. Except maybe the possible futures where Monarch exists as Captain Atom.
Yeah.
Which I think would be out there in Hypertime.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hypertime is a thing at this point.
Oh, shit.
Because we're down to one Earth. Because Crisis has happened, but we do have Hypertime. Well, actually, I'm not even sure we have Hypertime, but whatever. Let's call it Hypertime. So it's possible a version of Monarch would still exist, or because it's superheroes, even killing Hawk doesn't preclude the idea that Hawk comes back to life and then later goes nuts and becomes Monarch. So I don't know that you can guarantee that any single action would 100% wipe out all possible futures where Hank is Monarch. So there's that. The other thing, like, that's not what this is doing, obviously, but you can make, like, the Kelvin timeline argument that when you go back in time and start changing the futures, you are now making an alternate timeline. So that Monarch that comes back from that future, the previous future, is now in a timeline where it doesn't matter what happens in that timeline. He might not exist there, but he still exists from the other timeline. Mm-hmm. So you're not like directly causally wiping him out. You know what I mean?
Okay, sure.
Which, if you take that to be true, then Waverider's entire mission is for nothing. Because nothing he could do could then wipe out that timeline. Because he is, just by showing up in the past, he's creating a divergent timeline.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm going to say no, he wouldn't disappear Back to the Future style. I don't think Back to the Future time travel rules apply in this. I think it would be slightly more along the lines of the Kelvin timeline or like the end game version where there are just separate timelines now. I think it would be more along those lines.
Okay. Jeez.
Welcome to the Dr. Physics podcast, am I right?
So, if you don't know, residents, we're in Canada, and tomorrow, from the day that we're recording this, is Thanksgiving here.
That's right, yeah.
And you, Doctor, are having Thanksgiving tomorrow, but you're having a lot of people over.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, and I don't know if one turkey is going to be enough.
Oh, okay.
So let me pitch something to you.
Sure, yeah, hit me.
We take the one turkey that you bought.
Right.
We turn it into a block of ice.
It's not even customizing cars anymore.
No, just anything. Business has been slow.
The Iceman costumes.
I'm going to customize that turkey for you.
Turn it into a block of ice.
Yeah.
I love the inherent irony of saying that it's customs, but everything he offers is a block of ice.
Yeah, you get the joke.
Yeah, it's
Comedy Gold, baby.
It kind of is. Compared to other stuff we say on this, that's a pretty good joke.
I don't know what you mean.
September 11th.
This turkey is not a
Do you know the thing about that September 11th gaff of ours? is that I had planned for that episode to come out the week after. It got jumbled.
Oh, that's right.
And, yep.
You know what's funny? You know how you make a thing like that worse? Constantly bringing it up.
What? What, you mean our September 11th gaff? In the Trading Cards 3 episode? I mean, I would never recommend that people listen to Trading Cards number 3. It's, I think it's issue 133. It came out on September 11th. 2019.
Stop listening to that Booster Gold episode and Iceman Customs asks if Waverider were to touch you today, what would he be seeing? A lawsuit. That's what I said.
Your possible future is just you suing him?
Yeah. I got me too'd by Waverider.
Jesus. Well,
he told me he'd turn me into Monarch. You want to be a star, baby?
Jesus. Is that your answer?
Yeah.
Is your answer that the possible future that Waverider would see would be himself being brought up on charges for having touched
me? Yeah. Tell me where the Waverider touched you. I mean, it was a Waverider because sploosh.
Jesus. Why?
What would he be saying?
For my, well, I mean, it's just a possible future.
Yeah.
So he's on my
picture it, a Dr. DC podcast TV show.
Ooh. Oh yeah, I like that.
But we're not American, so we can't do that.
Yeah, because we don't have TV in Canada.
Yeah, I just make us that DC contest thing.
Oh, that thing. Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. We'll just make our own cable access, baby. I mean,
we could do that here.
They would probably go for it.
Probably. As long as they never saw the source material.
Or what we were currently recording for them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. As long as
they never saw it.
As long as it never saw the light of day, they would let us do it.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think if you peered into my future, I mean, I would hope that it would be a good future, but let's take Armageddon 2001 rules and let's say something has gone wrong for me.
Where's the darkest timeline?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's the darkest timeline, but you're probably at my funeral.
I was going to say, I'm like, yeah.
I would be, it would be like Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. I would yeah.
Yeah, jeez.
It would be just a...
October 14th was a dark day.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow, and I'd say there's like 6 people at the funeral.
Well, your dad, maybe your mom.
Well, it's a long
your
flight.
sister,
They might
so
not
it's
come.
3. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I think it's you.
If I can make it.
Your wife stays home.
Yeah, well,
my
she doesn't care
wife.
about you. Sorry, who?
My wife.
Sorry, who?
My wife. My wife.
Thank you.
My wife.
Your daughter has to because
No, she'll stay with the babysitter.
she had something going on.
She has other plans. I think Stump flies.
Yeah.
home.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Dave Rossi. Is this a weird way to say that I want us to be friends? To like hope that he'd be at my funeral.
It's also saying that your closest friends are people you've never met,
They're the people that know me the best.
or it's the people that haven't known you well enough, so that's why they're your friend.
I mean, they're literally the people that know me the best.
Probably, yeah.
I just listed them. I actually didn't even round out the number 6.
Yeah,
so
no, God, no.
I think maybe that's what
It's a soft 6. And by 6, I mean 2.
There's a couple of maybes on the Facebook event.
I just want to feel out who else is going before I commit.
Yeah, I think that's that. But then you would discover that I faked my own death, and because I'm working for the local government.
I'm sorry. Why did you do that in like Alfred voice?
Oh, me and my friends were working for the local government.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I do. I burn myself. I fake my own death.
Yeah.
Forge a new identity.
Fake, sure, yeah.
And then just start working, but not to do something like a spy thing. I just
Analyst.
I just like policy analyst. I just work in an office, but I forge a new identity to do that.
They're like, you don't need to do this. You could just work for the government.
This is how much I want this job.
Okay, but we don't want you to do that.
It's illegal.
Yeah,
what you're doing.
Yeah, we can't hire you now. So I don't know what you're gonna do.
Yeah, that's what Waverider would see. I think.
Nice. Let's leave Instagram and head on over to email.
Checking the email.
I hope it's from a female.
I hope it's from a female, Master Wayne.
Yeah, for your sake.
For your sake.
Get it together. Next question comes from Tony Shalhoub, better known as Monk.
Monk.
To be fair, this is a M-U-N-K, not an M-O-N-K. So it's not Adrian Monk.
Was Adrian Monk spelled with an O?
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
I wish. God, if we could get the star power of Tony Shalhoub, this podcast would be jet setting at this point.
With the star power of Tony Shalhoub. Our bar is so low. By the way, Tony, if you're listening, we'd still love to have you on.
Dear God. We could really use the boost.
We need your star power.
Yeah. But
Monk with a U is a character in DC. He's a member of the Indigo tribe.
That makes sense.
Is that who this is?
I don't know. You didn't give me any other context. You just wrote Monk. So I don't know.
Well, fine.
They go on to say, can you talk specifically about Waverider? Who is he? What are his powers?
Right.
So we talked a little bit already.
Yeah, so his name is Matthew Ryder. He comes from the future in which Monarch has taken over.
Yeah. But we don't know much of his powers yet, I think.
Yeah. So he's a temporal physicist, and then when he gets sent back in time, he becomes one with the time stream, basically. So Waverider can travel through time. He has the ability to obviously see possible futures, because that's like the premise of Armageddon 2001. He has some sort of chronal manipulation abilities, some sort of time abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But he's basically made of like living temporal energy. He's like the physicists among you will recognize that space and time are all one thing.
All the physicists.
But I was going to say he's like the time
yeah.
version of Captain Atom, who's essentially just living energy. But it all pretty much comes out in the wash in real physics. But for superhero physics, that's kind of how he works. The sort of sad thing about him is that in the future that he comes from, he has a family that he kind of like doesn't love anymore, because like the daughter works as like a cop in this fascist police state. It like believes in like thought policing and stuff like that. His wife just like wants to fly under the he kind of like he's sort of like distant from his family because they're all sheep.
Oh my god.
And he wants to, resist. So he's sort of like distanced from his own family, which is sort of sad. But yeah, I mean, his powers are essentially to do with traveling and perceiving time. So he can both actually move through time and also perceive different timelines and different futures and pasts and things like that. That's basically Waverider. He does show up in 0 Hour, which is a major event. It's called the Crisis in Time. He shows up there. He's shown up as recently as Convergence, I think, where I think in that one version of Booster Gold ends up becoming Waverider, like taking over for Matthew Ryder, but I can't remember which version. It's either the New 52 one or the pre-Flashpoint one. I don't think he's shown up since then, so that's several years ago now. But yeah, I mean, he's not I wouldn't say he's a major character, but for a minute there in the 90s, you were seeing a lot of Waverider. Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave email and head on over to Reddit,
where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
No one's ever mean.
You're never gonna be able to shake it.
It's forever. It's literally forever stuck in my brain.
Yeah, we're just stuck in this hell now.
Yep. This question comes from. Oh God. I think Chris Chan came back from his possible future and created a Reddit account.
Oh no!
Because this is another guy.
He's already changed his future. Second spoiler alert. Now you're Monarch. Now you're Robbie. It's just this guy.
Well, another guy asks, was the original ending ever published? If not, are there any statements from DC that they will ever do so?
I don't think it was ever published because I don't know that it was ever. Oh, I don't know that it actually got finished. I think when the leak happened, they made them redo the issue.
Oh.
So I don't know if it even exists to publish. However, a couple of things that happened way later essentially acknowledge, like in canon, I mean, DC in general has acknowledged that was a fucking mistake. But in canon, they've done a couple of things to also sort of acknowledge that. One of which was, oh shit, is it Infinite Crisis? Or one of the sort of like side stories of Infinite Crisis involved, after Bloodhaven was destroyed by Chemo, then there was also like nuclear fallout for some reason. I'm blanking on pieces of this story, but I'm pretty sure that in that story, Captain Atom either becomes Monarch or like puts on a suit and makes him look like Monarch, which is sort of like a sneaky DC way of saying like Captain Atom Monarch, like acknowledging that maybe that's the way it should have been, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we've talked about before the very sort of convoluted histories of like the Hawks, like Hawkman and Hawkwoman, but also how they're tied to Hawk and Dove, which is in the form of both of their sons, Hector Hall. So Hector Hall is the son of the Hawks, who was the Silver Scarab and then dies.
Yeah.
And then when he reincarnates, he inhabits the body of Hank Hall and Dawn Granger's son. So Hector, and then rapidly ages. So Hector Hall, that is technically both the son of Carter and Shira Hall, but also Hank Hall and Dawn Granger.
That's fucked up.
And becomes Dr. Fate. Right?
Yeah, okay.
A lot of shit in there.
Yeah.
But that idea of Hank and Dawn having a child, it starts in Armageddon 2001. In their future, they have a child called Unity. Who ideally is the forces of both order and chaos, right? War and peace. And Unity fights Monarch in that alternate future. And I'm positive there's a story later, like in the 2000s, where Mordrew the Wizard reveals that the ending of Armageddon 2001 was faked. Like that he made Hank see Dawn die so that he would go crazy, become Monarch. And then he used him to still somehow impregnate Dawn, even though he just saw her die. I'm clearly missing a step in here. And Mordrew was going to use that child that would have had the power of order and chaos. But Hector Hall's spirit incarnates in it first. And Mordrew doesn't get to. So all of that is tied together. But essentially what that story is saying is that the ending of Armageddon 2001 didn't happen. That's Mordrew saying, like, I faked it.
Wow.
So I think I'm clearly missing pieces to that, but that's about as conclusive as you can get. The DC in canon was like, we should undo this.
Wow. Fucking Monarch.
I mean, they're not 100% undoing it because its effect on Hank was still the same, but did it actually happen? Not really. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a meta commentary on it shouldn't have happened.
Nobody ever suspects the butterfly.
That's true.
Well, that's it for the questions this week.
We did it.
You know what that means.
That's it.
Nope.
See you next week.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Because before we go, we have to head into this week's Dial Doc. Dial Doc is a little thing that we do, paying homage to the comic series. Dial H for Hero. You're really desperate, aren't you?
Dial nothing out the window. I don't know what to do.
Dial H was a comic series where basically a lot of people would send in ideas for heroes, a lot of like readers. And so they took all of those ideas, and none of them were good enough probably that they could make full series around them. But what they did was they put them into these Dial H comics. And what essentially it was is somebody would find this payphone, dial hero or evil, and then we get turned into a random hero or a villain for a temporary period of time. So every week we try to pay homage to that by coming up with our own temporary characters. Mine called the terrorist. No.
Yeah.
I have my character. My character this week is called Looper.
Okay.
And
no relation?
No. Who has the ability to stick people in continuous time loops.
Somewhat relation, but okay, interesting.
Yeah. And so basically, yeah, if he's fighting a villain,
he can Groundhog Day them, basically.
Well, it's only in like an action that they're doing.
Oh, okay. Not like a full day. Or
no, but he has to catch them before they start attacking him. So basically, if they're like picking a piece of paper, or they're like getting in and out of a car, like that kind of thing.
Oh, right. So it's not that they are reliving the same moment. It's that they're just repeating the act. They can't like stop repeating the action.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Looper. Nice. And I guess it's just like a short burst. It would just be like a single action.
Yeah, but if you're right, if someone was running at you, he can't loop you into running at you because they're just going to hit you.
Right, because you keep running.
Yeah.
Understood. My character is called Yoga Matt.
Jesus. Is it a guy named Matt?
Yeah.
Of course it is.
His name is Matthew Yog. And he's...
is that with a J?
Yeah, he inhales radioactive... like incense and
incense cuck,
and he develops chakra powers.
Wow,
I'm sure this is culturally insensitive, so I apologize. But basically,
it's only when you start doing his voice.
He's like the yoga version of Flex Mentalo.
Oh.
So instead of flexing muscles to change reality or make things happen, he does specific yoga poses to affect the world around him.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like Flex, but yeah.
Would you shut the fuck up, man? I've done like fucking 80 of these.
I didn't see the problem. I'm just pumping them out every week. Don't forget Come Man.
How could I?
So character the world would never forget. We would love to hear the type of heroes or villains that you guys could come up with.
Yes, please. Yeah.
All you have to do is use the hashtag DialDoc and send us your idea. Or send us a question for next week's episode. I think we can announce the guest?
Oh, yeah. We can announce the guest. And actually, by the time you listen to this, the question post will already be out there. So if you haven't already, send us questions about Commandy, the Last Boy, and that world, the sort of future of the great disaster. And it's not the fourth world, but it is Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
But we're having... I'm
very excited for you. Very excited for you to hear about my character. Just as long as I have some honey first.
Pooh?
That's my Jack Kirby impression.
Why did you make him sound like Pooh?
Because that's what he sounds like.
No, he does
not. I'll show you after. I'll show you when we're done. He sounds like Pooh. We have a guest.
Yeah, Kyle Clark's coming back.
One of our most returning guests.
Yeah. Not only just in number of episodes, but total length of recording time.
Well, yeah, if timing wise, it's on par with just our own episodes. So, yes, the legendary guest, Kyle Clark, will be returning to talk Commandy. So
send your questions. Anything about Commandy, the Great Disaster, anything about, the world of those anthropomorphic animals and anything.
And I'm
like
sure
that.
knowing Kyle Clark, if we're talking Jack Kirby, we're probably going to talk Fourth World. So.
Well, Fourth World is tangentially related because at least on Earth 51, they all basically coexist.
Yes.
That's the world of Kirby creations, basically.
Yes. So if you want to send a question for those, all you have to do is reach out to us through our various social media platforms, such as our Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast,
our Twitter,
at Dr. DC,
Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast,
email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
Of course, our subreddit,
r/Dr_DC.
And of course, the doc phone is now open. All you have to do is call us at
208-917-3238.
That's 208-917-DCEU. Also, not only can you talk to us online, but you can read some of our very old DC-specific articles or buy our merch. And we've skyrocketed.
DCPodcast.com.
Yeah, we've passed the 52 mark.
We're well past that.
We're heading towards 100, which we will at some point figure out what that's going to be. But we need your reviews always. You saw the great one we had today. We've been. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, as much we would also want them on iTunes, but if you've already done that, but you feel like you still want to spread the love, all of these alternate ways of
do you maybe have you have an interview or a for a new job, or you have a someone wants to buy your company, and you're in the boardroom, and someone writes a number on a piece of paper and slides it over to you, and then you look at it, and then on that piece of paper, then cross that out, write a review for the Dr. DC podcast, and slip it back to them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you're like prepping the budget at work, just put a little line item, put it in the assets column, because that's really what we are, aren't we? Make a little asset account that's just called Dr. DC Podcast, and when they go to see what the value is, just insert your 5-star review instead of actual numbers. It's going to fuck up your spreadsheet, but it's going to be worth it.
Is it you really are in accounting mode, eh?
Well, I took that course.
Is it 1995 and you have a folder of porn on your computer called tax files?
Do not open.
Rename that to a review for the Dr. DC podcast.
Yeah. Are you, speaking of old files on your computer, remember that novel you were trying to write?
Oh, yeah.
You remember how you sort of got stuck and you thought it wasn't good anymore? You sort of put it aside?
Oh, yeah.
Just go back. Here's how you break through the writer's block. You write a 5-star review of the Dr. DC podcast, and then instantly send that to a publisher. Don't even finish the novel.
Are you a time traveler? Go back to ancient Mesopotamia, find some cave walls, and write a review for the Dr. DC podcast.
Wow.
That'll blow some fucking minds.
Yeah, that's a responsible use of time travel.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Do you know what? It was years ago, I read an article in National Geographic about this cave that they discovered like a podcast review inside, and that's kind of where I got the idea for this.
God.
Oh my God. You did it. That counts.
Talk about Dr. BC.
Oh, I like that.
And of course, if you want to give us stuff, including buying our merch and giving us reviews, you can also support us by giving us your money.
That's right.
every week we put out an extra episode of the Dr. DC podcast, sometimes tangentially related to the materials of our regular feed. Sometimes it's completely off-putting, like this week. We're going with...
I don't know, off-putting. It's just... well, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
This week we're opening up some wounds, baby.
Yeah, I've got some childhood trauma and you want to hear about it.
That's not quite what I meant.
I mean, kind of.
They listen to the regular feed.
Yeah, well, that's true. Let me talk about my uncle.
Patreon.com/DrDC. It's only $5 a month, and you get that bonus episode, the double dose that comes out every week.
I thought he was my friend.
Lots of geeking out happening over there. We're just going to gloss over
he was a trusted
all of
family
Richard's
member.
real feelings.
Well, that's it for this week. We'll hopefully talk to you on Friday. If not, we'll see you next Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.
Adios.
Wow.
Heroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men of...
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.